Something strange is happening in 2026. Global instability is rising. Ancient fault lines, both geological and geopolitical, are shifting. And for the first time in history, several long-standing biblical prophecies appear to be aligning with measurable scientific trends. Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, the convergence is impossible to ignore. Most people assume prophecy is vague, symbolic, or disconnected from the real world. But when you compare the text with modern data, climate science, archaeology, geopolitics, and astronomical research, you start to see patterns that are too precise to dismiss. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 verified data points, uncover overlooked biblical passages about the end of the age, connect them to modern science, and expose a detail most scholars never talk about. Stay until the end, because the final connection completely reframes how this topic has been understood. Let's begin with the science, because if the data doesn't hold up, nothing else matters. The first major trend is the acceleration of global instability. According to a 2025 report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the world is experiencing the highest number of active conflicts since World War II. Researchers describe a multipolar fragmentation that mirrors the exact geopolitical conditions Jesus referenced when he said, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom." This isn't vague, it's measurable. Second, Earth's natural systems are behaving in ways scientists describe as unprecedented in recorded history. A 2024 study in Nature Climate Science found that extreme weather events have increased 5-fold since 1980. Heat waves, megadroughts, atmospheric rivers, these aren't random. They align with the biblical motif of creation groaning in Romans 8:22. The Greek word used there means to suffer together with, implying a world under strain. Modern data echoes that strain with eerie precision. Third, seismic activity is rising. The United States Geological Survey reports a statistically significant increase in moderate earthquakes over the last decade, especially along Mediterranean and Middle Eastern fault lines, regions directly tied to biblical prophecy. When Jesus spoke of earthquakes in various places, the Greek phrase means in multiple regions at the same time. That's exactly what we're seeing. Fourth, the sun is entering an unusually active phase. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory shows that solar storms are projected to peak in 2026. Revelation describes a moment when the sun scorches people with fire. Whether symbolic or literal, the science shows that a strong enough solar event could disrupt power grids, satellites, and global communications. Something ancient readers couldn't have imagined, but modern physics confirms is possible. So before we even open the Bible deeply, we already have 4 converging trends: global conflict, environmental instability, seismic escalation, and solar volatility. These aren't predictions, they're measurements, and they set the stage for the 7 prophecies we're about to explore. The first prophecy involves the rise of a globalized tension network. Daniel 12:4 says, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Most people interpret this as travel and technology. But the Hebrew word for knowledge doesn't just mean information. It means data, awareness, interconnected intelligence. In 2026, humanity is more interconnected and more polarized than ever. This isn't just travel, it's global cognitive overload. The second prophecy concerns the re-emergence of ancient alliances. Ezekiel 38 describes a coalition of nations that scholars have debated for centuries. But archaeological and linguistic studies published in 2023 show that several ancient tribal names in the text correspond to regions currently forming new political and military partnerships. The prophecy isn't predicting modern nations by name, it's predicting geographic power blocks, and those blocks are forming right now. The third prophecy is the return of Jerusalem as a global flashpoint. Zechariah says Jerusalem will become a burdensome stone for all nations. In 2025, the United Nations recorded more resolutions concerning Jerusalem than any other city on Earth. This is not normal. The city is a tiny fraction of the world's landmass, yet it dominates global diplomacy. The prophecy doesn't say Jerusalem will be destroyed. It says it will become central. And it has. The fourth prophecy is the acceleration of deception. Jesus warns that false messiahs and false prophets will arise and deceive many. The Greek word for deceive means to cause someone to wander off course. In 2026, misinformation spreads faster than truth. AI-generated content, deepfakes, and algorithmic echo chambers create a world where people can no longer agree on basic reality. This isn't just cultural decay, it's a prophetic marker. The fifth prophecy is hidden in the biblical Jubilee cycle. Leviticus outlines a 50-year rhythm of release and reset. Several scholars have noted that major global shifts often align with these cycles. When you map the last century's geopolitical turning points, the next major inflection point lands in the mid-2020s. Is this coincidence or a pattern embedded in the biblical calendar? The sixth prophecy involves the knowledge explosion in Daniel 12. The Dead Sea Scrolls include a variant reading that emphasizes the unsealing of hidden things. In the last decade alone, humanity has unlocked CRISPR gene editing, quantum computing breakthroughs, and AI models capable of rewriting entire industries. We are unsealing knowledge at a pace no previous generation has witnessed. The seventh prophecy is the global witness moment. Jesus said the gospel would be proclaimed to all nations before the end. In 2024, researchers reported that Scripture is now available in over 95% of the world's primary languages. Digital missions, satellite internet, and mobile technology have reached regions once considered unreachable. For the first time in history, this prophecy is statistically plausible. Now, skeptics raise fair objections. Some say people have always thought the end was near. That's true. But previous generations didn't have global data, satellite imaging, or real-time geopolitical analytics. The difference now is convergence. Multiple independent systems are peaking simultaneously. Others argue that prophecies are too vague. But when you examine the original languages, Hebrew and Greek terms often carry precise meanings that modern translations flatten. When restored, the specificity increases dramatically. Another objection is that science contradicts prophecy. But many scientific fields, astronomy, geology, anthropology, provide frameworks that make certain prophetic events more plausible, not less. The tension isn't between science and Scripture. It's between our assumptions and what the data actually shows. When you strip away tradition and look at the text through the lens of modern research, the gap between the ancient world and the scientific world becomes much smaller than most people expect. So what does all of this mean? If these seven prophecies are truly converging, geopolitically, scientifically, and spiritually, then we're living in a moment of extraordinary significance. Not a moment of fear, but of clarity. The Bible never frames the end of the age as chaos for believers. It frames it as a time of awakening, discernment, and preparation. It challenges shallow interpretations. It pushes us to rethink what prophecy actually is, not fortune-telling, but pattern recognition. A divine pattern woven through history, creation, and human behavior. And if the patterns are intensifying, then the call is simple: pay attention, not with panic, but with purpose. We covered a lot today, so here are the core takeaways. Global conflict is rising exactly as Jesus described. Environmental and seismic instability match biblical language. Ancient alliances are reforming in recognizable geographic patterns. Jerusalem is once again the center of global tension. The Jubilee cycle points to a major shift in the mid-2020s. Humanity is unlocking knowledge at an unprecedented rate, and the gospel has reached the nations in a way no previous generation has seen. And here's one more thing, something most people overlook. Every major prophetic moment in Scripture is preceded by a period of acceleration. Not slow change, but rapid change. And that's exactly what we're living through. If this shifted how you see Scripture, comment what stood out most. Does the evidence strengthen your faith or raise new questions? Like and subscribe for more deep dives at the edge of faith and science, and share this with someone who loves asking hard questions.